Hello, friends. Welcome to a sermon recap for this week. This week was Palm Sunday, so we celebrated the Lord riding into Jerusalem on a donkey as a symbol of king. And what it pictures is us welcoming the Lord into our lives as our guide, as our king, that we want the Lord to rule our thinking, want him to rule our behaviors, our desires, our loves, and laying down palm branches and clothing before him is being willing to submit our own beliefs and our own ideas before him and say, I want your teachings to guide my life. In the adult portion of the sermon, I talked about those women who followed Jesus during his life in the world. There's a lot of instances where women would listen to him. They were part of the group that followed him. They were sent by him to talk about his resurrection, as you know in the Easter story, which will be coming up shortly. And so really, what is the place of them? And I think it was really important to talk about that because churches and religions have talked poorly about women in the past. And a lot of that springs from the Genesis story about the creation, the Garden of Eden, where it talks about how God created the human. And the name Adam is really just a Hebrew word which means human. It's not regarding a male person. So God, it says, created humans, and he created them to have this feeling that everything is from God, and this belief that everything was from God. So the tree of life in the Garden of Eden was eating of that tree is taking on that belief that everything is from God. But the humans, or the earliest people of the church, were not satisfied with that. They wanted to feel like life was their own. So the Lord gave them this feeling that life was their own. And that's what's pictured by the rib that was taken out of the human and turned into a woman, or Eve. Of course, it doesn't picture a woman, it pictures that feeling of self-life, the Latin word proprium, the feeling that life is my own. And they loved it, just like Adam loved Eve, but because the earliest people loved that feeling that life was their own. So we need to dispel this whole idea that women are subservient to men, or less than, or created from the rib of man. It's not what that story is about. And of course, Paul talks about all kinds of things in his epistles about women being silent in the church and subservient to their husbands and these sorts of things. And we're told that those things are not accurate. That's not how it's supposed to be. So the real point of that sermon was to bring out the beauty and the strength of the women that did follow Jesus in his ministry. When Jesus was arrested, and they didn't run away. When he was being crucified, they stayed there. They brought spices to anoint his body. They were the first ones that came to the tomb on Easter morning when the disciples were hiding from people. And so they picture a real strength that we can have, which we're actually told that all the women in the Lord's Word symbolize an affection for truth, that love for what's true, that passion for doing what's right. And it's that passion for it that gives us strength, not just intellectual curiosity, but a real desire to do what the truth teaches because we love it and we care about it. And that's what all of those women symbolize. So listen to the full sermon if you get a chance, but that's a little bit of a highlight about what we talked about. I hope you have a great Easter week, and we'll see you next time.